Good evening and welcome to the Township of Woolwich regular meeting of council on January 20th, 2025. Welcome to all of you here in the gallery and to all those watching on YouTube. I will start with a roll call of council. I'm Mayor Shantz. I'm chairing this meeting. Councillor Bryant.
Present.
Councillor Burgess.
Present.
Councillor Cadeau.
Present.
Councillor Grant.
Present.
Councillor Schwinn.
Present.
Thank you. So before we start the meeting, we just had a bit of a discussion because the first part of the meeting is council and we have a number of items in the council portion. The second part is committee portion, which deals with the issue that I believe everybody in the gallery is waiting for. So what we're going to do is flip the agenda for you so that we deal with that first. But we do have a couple other items before we get to that, but I just wanted you to be aware that that we're going to adjust the agenda. I'm seeing nods from council that that's okay. So, all right. But before we start the meeting, we need to officially reconvene in open session. A motion, Councillor Grant, Councillor Bryant, all those in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. So just as we're starting the meeting, I wanted to congratulate our staff and the community on a very successful Ontario Men's and Women's Curling Championship from January 4th to the 11th. We received lots and lots of good comments. I think there was a good time had by all, and our staff stepped up really well and provided assistance, and the facility was people raved about the facility and the support that they got. So thank you very much and congratulations on a very good event. This is mental health, well, it's not mental health month, but January, we have a focus on mental health in winter. Of course, Blue Monday is January 19th, which we just passed. And Bell Let's Talk Day is January 22nd, which is coming up in a couple of days. So just a reminder that as things are tough for all of us in so many different ways, and we hear lots on the radio and media, if you need help, please reach out to, you can reach out to Woolwich Counseling. I will give that number is 519-669-8651 or woolwichcounseling.org. And there's many other organizations and supports out there as well. So please be aware. Join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. The Township of Woolwich acknowledges with deep respect that the land we call home has existed since time immemorial, long before our communities were formed and long before we arrived here. Indigenous peoples have had a deep and lasting relationship with this land, caring for it, learning from it, and living alongside all it sustains. We are grateful to the First Peoples who have lived on and cared for this land and who continue to do so today. In particular, we recognize the Chinatan, also known as the Attawandaron, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee people. We honor their deep connection to this land. We acknowledge their wisdom, resilience, and leadership. These communities have protected and cared for the land with respect, responsibility, and a sense of shared trust. As we move forward, we hope to build a future based on mutual respect, shared responsibility, and stronger relationships with one another. May we continue to learn together, to care for each other, and to honor all who share this place with us. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest this evening, Council? No. Seeing none, we will move into Committee of the Whole. So if you flip to item number 6 on your agenda, that's where we'll start. And I'll just read the opening statement about Committee of the Whole. Good evening. We are now meeting as Committee of the Whole for items that require more debate and discussion. We will not be on these items, but proposing recommendations for the next council meeting. If anyone in the community has feedback on these recommendations, we encourage you to reach out to staff or submit comments to council before a final decision is made at the next meeting. So the committee item that we're bringing forward is the Hawkesville Road Servicing Strategy, and I will call on Manager of Development Engineering, Lori Fox, to start us off.
Thank you.
There she is.
Committee Chair and members of Council, I am here this evening presenting report DS 01-2026 titled Hawkesville Road Servicing Strategy. The report requests Council approve in principle an overall servicing strategy for the Hawkesville Road expansion area that was included in the Region's Official Plan Amendment Number 6, also known as ROPA 6. As Council is aware, the urban boundary expansions approved with ROPA 6 resulted in significant increase in available development land in some areas of the township, including St. Jacobs. Following a pause to the plan in 2024, the province reconfirmed the expanded urban boundaries. The township is currently updating our official plan, which would typically include overall servicing strategies for expanded areas. However, property owners along Hawkesville Road identified on attachment 1, that's attachment 2, I think, have submitted official plan amendment applications. Fulsome servicing capacity reviews must be done before any development can move forward. These reviews will be part of the submission process for the development applications. This report outlines a strategy to service the expanded lands. It does not represent the township development application. It merely gives developers a servicing strategy that they can use with their designs. Township staff are committed to a servicing option that best serves the township and its future maintenance obligations. Shown as solid red lines on attachment 2, the existing sanitary sewer along Hawkesville Road isn't deep enough to gravity service all of the expanded lands and does not extend far enough to the west to service all of the expanded boundary. Existing water mains shown as solid blue lines on Hawkesville Road are not sized to adequately service all of the potential development areas and are also not extended far enough to the west to capture all of the boundary. After consultation with developers, consultants, peer reviewers, and the region, it has been determined that upgrades to Hawkesville Road water main, along with sanitary servicing through an existing property on Chris Court, represent the best option with the least amount of disruption for North St. Jacobs area residents. Developers would purchase a Chris Court property to provide for this connection. Stormwater control would be provided by individual developments controlled through comprehensive stormwater management designs with typical things like stormwater management ponds and underground stormwater infrastructure. The township is not providing any cost sharing for the servicing strategy. All designs and construction costs, along with the purchase of the Chris Court property, are borne by the developers. It is proposed that a special servicing levy could provide future reimbursement to developers for costs benefiting other development properties in the corridor. Existing servicing would not be affected by the levy. Future costs to the township include maintenance, repairs, and life cycle replacement of the assumed servicing structures. Staged development would ensure servicing capacity is considered for all future development applications. It should be noted that the region has recently identified water servicing capacity issues within the Mannheim servicing area, which includes St. Jacobs. No new development will move forward until after capacity issue has been resolved by the region. Development services have considered options for servicing Hawkesville Road and have concluded that the mentioned servicing strategy is the preferred long-term solution for servicing the expanded development area. The Chris Court servicing strategy provides shallower gravity sanitary servicing that is easier and cheaper to maintain than deeper sewer or a sanitary pumping station. At this time, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Council. Do you have questions for Ms. Fox? Councillor Schwint.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the servicing map, and there's the existing sanitary main on Hawkesville Road. How deep is it currently? And how deep is the proposed one that will be going on Hawkesville Road, understanding the two won't connect?
Through the chair to the councillor. The existing sanitary main is of a standard depth right now. It's actually rather shallow. It's not deep enough to service all of the lands. I think the estimate was that it was around 2.5 meters deep. And then the new proposed sanitary that would come up through the Chris Court lot and through the development on the south side, that would also be of a standard depth through that area of that development. And then it would have to come up to meet the depth required for the servicing of the lands on the north side of the road. So in the end, it would all be of an average depth as opposed to an extended depth.
So give or take 2-3 meters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Cadeau.
Thanks, Chair, through you. Just looking at this map as well, the proposed property that would be purchased, how would the work impact the properties to the north and the south? I'm just seeing that dotted line and it's kind of close to one of the borders. Is this work going to be largely impactful to some of the existing property owners?
Sure. So through the chair to the councillor. Yeah, typically when you install a sewer like this through an easement on a property, it does go on one side or the other side of the lot. And that's to allow for the remainder of the lot to be utilized as is needed, whether it's to build a house on or whatever other use that property could be. So the impact to the lots on either side of it, there should not be any impact.
Anyone else? Okay. We thank you, Ms. Fox. We have a number of delegations, 6 registered delegations. Yes. And 2 written submissions. So we'll start with Heather Price, Vice President of GSP Group, and Vaughn Bender, Chief Operating Officer at Schlegel Urban Developments. And I see Vaughn, and I don't see Heather. Is she joining online or?
No, I'm sorry, Mayor Shantz and members of council. Our planner is ill this evening. She just very recently forwarded an email. Apologize for the lateness of that to cover off both of our remarks.
Okay,
So-
you've got 7 minutes.
Okay. So our message this evening is really 3 things, and all respectfully delivered. That this staff report is premature, that it puts forward a flawed concept for servicing on the basis of comprehensiveness, and it's prejudicial to the implementation of the Schlegel neighborhood plan at the present time. We submit that it's premature because neither the Polocorp or the Schlegel applications are before you with staff recommendations for decisions on the planning applications. This means to us that there's not enough information before council to make an informed decision on the appropriate servicing opportunities of this area and the lands which have been identified as needing to be considered comprehensively. The recommendations before you are respectfully premature in the absence of a re-engagement with this council on an allocation of capacity to serve the Polocorp and the Schlegel lands, and a final recommendation from staff on that matter. Respectfully, staff are asking council to approve in principle a flawed servicing recommendation for these lands at the north end of St. Jacobs so that this direction can be used in further discussions with Polocorp and Schlegel as they give comments on our complete planning applications and a myriad of other technical matters in order to indicate that they have been directed by council to carry out your wishes. This will result in substantial delays to the Schlegel proposal, which is for low, mid-rise density residential units, which will add to the incremental neighborhood compatible growth to the area which both the township and the province are looking for. The very pretense for the staff report is We submit that comprehensive servicing does not mean all lands need to outlet into one pipe. By way of a very tangible example of prejudicial, I refer you to page 4 of the staff report before you. It reads, and I quote, "Each development property must control their stormwater quality and quantity discharge rates to pre-development." We agree. This is expected to be done via site-specific stormwater management techniques such as OGS infrastructure. Agreed. Third sentence, the outlet for the discharged stormwater is proposed to be through the Polocorp property to the Conestoga River. We disagree with that. It's factually incorrect. The majority portion of the Schlegel lands, formerly the Stuart Martin Farm, and the Gillis Freedy lands do not outlet there today. We have an existing legal outlet to Hawkesville Road and to the Region of Waterloo-owned railway corridor. And please, we've been here before you before. Please do not misread. Hearing the Region of Waterloo does not want to accommodate additional stormwater on its lands. That is related to the third pipe scenario that had been contemplated and has been dismissed as being unimplementable. This is the existing water we presently outlet to the rail corridor, which we believe we have a legal right to continue to do. For staff to ask you to direct us that in future our development condition we lose this existing legal water overland flow drainage right is a serious matter. For staff to ask you to direct us that in future the only way to outlet water is at the discretion and decision-making of a neighboring landowner, Polocorp, is serious and I would say unprecedented. And this is one singular issue that our premature staff report. The staff report before you has been brought because the Polocorp Development Company has chosen to option a home on Chris Court to facilitate Chris Court servicing. And the Puopolos, I think, will tell you that Schlegel had no awareness or involvement in that decision or negotiation. We have heard the opinion of staff and some members of this council that you prefer all lands in this area of North St. Jacobs to be serviced by gravity and not by a pumping station. Regardless of the costs and regardless of whether the costs of maintenance of the pumping station are privately paid or publicly funded. And we respect staff and council's ability to take that position. But with that decision come costs which we believe are attributable to the specific low-lying lands which need that lower sewer depth. We have clearly presented within this very room that the Schlegel lands can make a gravity sewer connection for the majority of our site to the existing sanitary sewer on Northside Drive, and the balance of our site can be efficiently serviced to existing gravity sewer on Hawkesville Road without lowering that sewer. The low-lying nature of the Polocorp lands and some other neighboring residential properties, perhaps future development properties, is what is driving this expensive and unusual scheme to buy an existing home and remove it. In conclusion, at the request of township staff, we are working toward understanding the costs, impacts, viability, and the ability to implement each option for the servicing of all lands within the area of St. Jacobs under discussion. Our engineers have participated with our colleagues at Polocorp, their engineers, to review what does not translate into we agree with all of those options or we should be asked to pay for all of those options. Okay. The concept of comprehensive servicing for the lands is not confined to mean literally all lands need to outlet into one sanitary pipe. Comprehensive does not mean your existing legal outlet for stormwater is now changed and your only path forward is through a neighbor's lands. The Chris Court option is not the least expensive option. The Chris Court option is not the least disruptive. There's going to be disruptions on Hawkesville Road no matter what route sanitary servicing takes. The Polocorp development needs an enlarged water main on Hawkesville Road. The Schlegel property needs water main looping. So there is going to be reconstruction and disruption on Hawkesville Road no matter what. Our concerns are very serious this evening with regard to the content and the intent of the staff report. We ask you to not endorse the staff recommendations before you, alternatively to modify them to exclude the Schlegel property from the intent of the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Bender? Councillor Schmidt, I can always tell when you're thinking.
Yeah, I'm trying to understand servicing. I'm not an engineer. I asked staff earlier about the depth along Hawkesville Road. And I believe the Schlegel concern is you want to connect the Hawkesville Road, then down the north side versus connecting down Chris Court through the Polocorp lands. Would there be a difference in depth between the two options of the sanitary sewer along Hawkesville Road?
I may ask our engineer to assist me with depth if that's needed, but I'll take a stab at this while Matt's maybe walking up here. So about 80% of our site is proposed to go to the existing sewer on Northside Drive. It's not at a deep depth, but we can outlet to that. About 20% of our site is proposed to go south towards Hawkesville to the existing sewer at the depth that it's at. We need a minor extension of that sewer because it ends at the church property. So it needs to be extended west down Hawkesville Road, but it does not need to be deepened to capture our site by gravity.
A follow-up may not be fair for Mr. Bender, maybe it's back to staff. How far west can that, I'm gonna call it existing sewer depth service? That might be
Okay.
better for staff.
Who knows the answer to that? Vaughn, go ahead.
Well, Matt's saying 80 meters, so I guess two things. We can extend the sewer without changing the depth and pick up the Schlegel site. You could also extend the sewer and lower the depth to the maximum that would be permissible for that sewer, and not only connect the 52 Hawkesville Road Schlegel property, but you could also connect 56 and 60 Hawkesville Road, which are the two neighboring properties kind of embedded in the Schlegel site, kind of carved out of it. But it still doesn't serve the Polocorp and need for depth. All of the options that we've been looking at collectively.
So follow up on that, how much deeper would you have to go to service those other two properties to the north of Hawkesville Road?
North, I'm not sure how much the issue is not really so much depth of the sewer as much as you run out of cover because the road drops off significantly down towards the railway track. So it's not that the sewer is getting a whole lot deeper. It's that the topography is falling off and therefore it starts to daylight. So I'm not an engineer, but I think that's kind of essentially what happens. So it's not really that it gets deep. You run out of cover.
Okay, thanks. Anyone else? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Our next delegate is Mike Puopolo, CEO of Polocorp, to speak to us. Welcome, Mr.
Good evening. Just give me a few minutes to, it's elevated to binder depth. This, no, there. Thank you, Mayor, members of council. Good evening. My name is Mike Puopolo, co-CEO of Polocorp Inc. and the owner of 51 to 55 Hawkesville Road. We have reviewed the Hawkesville servicing strategy prepared by staff and appreciate the significant time and effort that has gone into this report. In particular, we like to acknowledge the work undertaken by staff, especially Lori and Brian, who since 2023 have led extensive technical discussions and correspondence with our engineering consultant to inform their conclusions. As outlined in the report, 3 technical solutions were evaluated in this for this area. And we understand that the staff recommended servicing via gravity through Chris Court as the preferred option. The proposed gravity-based servicing solution via Chris Court establishes a comprehensive sanitary catchment enabling the servicing of all 6 potential development parcels along Hawkesville Road corridor. And just for your information, they are the north end of Polocorp's lands, the south end of Schlegel's lands, as Vaughn has indicated, 56 Hawkesville Road, 60 Hawkesville Road, 47 Hawkesville Road, and the Cavalry United Church. The Chris Court option was not our initial preferred servicing strategy. We had previously proposed a public pumping station as early as 2023 as a means of comprehensively servicing the lands. We identified that we need to comprehensively service all of the lands. So, however, through ongoing discussion with staff, we understand the preference to prioritize a gravity-based option, not only for the site, our site, but for the greater area. So we support the recommendation of the Chris Court approach. From our perspective, any servicing solution should aim to comprehensively service all development parcels in an orderly, efficient, and least disruptive manner while maximizing the use of existing infrastructure. In summary, we work collaboratively with staff over the past 2 years to understand its objectives are comprehensively servicing the site. We are in support of option 3 via Chris Court because it enables comprehensive servicing of the remaining development lands, and it gives us a clear direction on development of our site. If the strategy is improved in principle, we can then move forward with necessary next steps, including timing, implementation, scope, and cost sharing with benefiting landowners. Please note, we've approached discussions with Schlegel and the township in a cooperative manner over the past 2 years and remain open to continuing collaboration with all stakeholders in a fair and balanced way. And also, it was noted that there is some potential for cost recovery mechanisms as there's lands outside of our lands that are being serviced. So while we recognize a special servicing levy, as indicated in the report, is a mechanism, there may be other tools that could address the shared costs and concerns with increased costs more efficiently. We would welcome further dialogue with the township to explore these options and refine the approach. Just on one thing Vaughn said, Vaughn was very well aware that the preferred servicing strategy last year was the Chris Court option. And without divulging too much private information, staff indicated that this was a preferred servicing strategy, that Chris Court was their desired servicing strategy. We took this very seriously, and we immediately action upon this. And this is why we're the servicing strategies before you today. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. Puopolo? Councillor Schwinn.
Yeah, a couple questions if I can. First of all, does it make a difference to the to your proposal anyway, if other properties connect to the sanitary main through your property or continue on Hawkesville Road, for example, and then veer down Chris Court? Would either one be viable, or how does it impact?
It would be impactful to us. I think the discussion was around a special servicing levy for the lands that don't include us. So it would be prudent if we chose one direction where the sanitary is going to be outlet to, whether it be Chris Court or another option.
I guess a blunt follow-up question, because most planning stuff comes down to money and reaching agreements. And as a counselor, I'm reluctant to tip my hands on scale on this project. I like developers to come forward with a solution themselves. If council delayed this decision for a week for all the parties to come together on an agreement, is that something that's viable for Polocorp? We do have a council meeting next week.
Through the chair, I think there are a lot of things that need to be addressed after a servicing strategy is implemented. I think one of which is the cost sharing. another which is timing and implementation. So I don't think it's going to be solved within a week, to be quite frank.
Anyone else? No. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you to both
Thank you.
Vaughn and Mike for the work that's been done to date. I know this is a difficult sort of negotiation and work. And thank you to staff for putting this together. When we extended the boundary for St. Jacobs area, we did it with the intent that we could then do comprehensive planning, and we haven't had time to do that comprehensive planning. And so I just wonder, Ms. Freeze, before we go to the other delegates, could you just talk a little bit about the planning process for new areas that come on stream?
Yeah, I can do that. So in a typical planning situation, staff would look at lands on the outskirts of an existing settlement area, look at what was appropriate to come in and develop a comprehensive servicing and potentially land use plan prior to bringing those lands in, or at the same time as bringing those lands into a settlement area. There was a unique situation that happened with the approval of the regional official plan, where the province expanded the settlement areas beyond what we were expecting. This is also very relevant in the Breslau area, where we're now trying to comprehensively look at a long-term plan for that area and come to council already with a land use plan, but we'll still need to do a lot of work on the servicing and the financial plan for the development of that area. So in a perfect world, this kind of information would already be done ahead of time, and then we would expand the settlement areas to align with that. So we would have a servicing plan in place, but in this situation, we've had to kind of work backwards because of provincial decisions.
Okay, thank you. Our next delegate is Mr. Martin Kuske, a resident of Chris Court in St. Jacobs.
Hello.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I do have a visual impairment, and despite the large font, please bear with me. It won't be easy going for me. Okay, I'd like to begin by saying thank you to Lori Fox for indulging me last week in a lengthy conversation that was both informative and empathetic. I've been a resident in St. Jacobs on Chris Court for 24 years and have reservations, concerns, and outright objections to option 3 outlined in Report DSO1. Very little documented supporting material was actually provided to us to establish the superiority of the Chris Court sewage connection. Over the years, there have been incidents on Chris Court of sewage backup and related problems, the particulars of which I have put in my written statements. One can only imagine a new subdivision in excess of 160 homes connecting to the existing system that services only 11 homes and arguably failing infrastructure, perhaps due to a gradual shift in the hillside. More to the point, current filings do not compare the 3 outlined options by way of tangible, intangible, operational metrics, financial analysis, or other relevant metrics. As a result, community interests and understanding are not being promoted on this crucial and step change development, although I would have to say we've learned some things here already tonight. For transparency and proper due process, the region owes ratepayers a robust disclosure of options, especially for those meaningfully affected on Chris Court by the current and largely unsupported outcome. I've chosen to also very quickly summarize my second written submission for the remaining time. A neighbor found a planning justification report by UP Consulting Limited online. Herein is information we didn't get from the township or from Polocorp. They want to tap into our water lines as well as put in a private sewage waste management facility and a parquet servicing area in place behind 3 of our houses, connecting us to the new subdivision, assumingly via a pathway, and no thank you. There is an implication that we will get sidewalks installed in that report, like the subdivision. And again, no thank you. We are not the same. We would rather not encourage 100+ potential family daily walkers with strollers and dogs on our quiet, sleepy court. The noise of a parkette must be kept out of earshot and out of sight, us here, them there. The further away you can place a parkette, in our opinion, the better. This will never become one integrated neighborhood. All of you should drive down sometime and you will understand our special secluded retreat. It has a very special atmosphere, a very special feeling, and to interrupt it would simply be wrong. Canceling the idea of a condo corporation also cancels the idea of a pumping station. This seems to be an opinion that's been expressed, but maybe not. Part of the projected 25% increase in our property taxes in each of the next 2 years are surely paying the upfront costs of some of these developments. Sheer irony for no benefit for us whatsoever. Only downsides, more traffic, more exhaust, lots of foot traffic, noise, and lowered property values. Surely some of the property taxes from the development could be allocated for the maintenance of said pumping station, since taxes charged are higher, property taxes charged are higher where there aren't condo fees. It seems to balance out. A pumping station is still likely 2/3 or perhaps half the cost of purchasing number 9. There could be a minimum of 189 units according to the report. I did the math on that. Plus, we have no idea how much sewage will be shuttled across Hawkesville Road from the Schlegel 409 unit development. How many? By the way, if you look on the other side of St. Jacobs, you can see the trend is to build beautiful higher end homes that capture the cachet of St. Jacobs firmly. We have known for some time about the realtor who came through here in the summer proposing to a 40-year-old resident that her home could be sold to a developer. She declined on several occasions, so approached more than once. This realtor also inquired at number 9, where the residents are new, having lived here for less than 2 years, with perhaps no particular allegiance to the court. So that worked out perfectly. If you ignore our wishes and go ahead with the purchase and option 3, at the very least, it would be preferable to see a new custom house built. All of our homes on that court are custom homes. Build another custom home that fits into our neighborhood would be a better solution if you are going to insist instead of some of the other options. The sale should help to recap some of the purchase price if another home were to be built while maintaining the integrity of our enclave. If Polocorp connects to our lines, the report states there will be 5 or 6 future developments who will piggyback on the connection to share costs. How much stress will engineers estimate will happen on the system? More difficult, yes, but Hawkesville Road, a main artery, is your best choice, and you know it, I think. Let's not be short-sighted just to get the build underway and save money. The rushing is reminiscent of the Ontario line, where neighbors experience sewer rats, ear-bursting noise, disrespect of residents, and cracked foundations. Or the rushing of the Ford Science Center, favoring development over public outcry again, save money. I have just a conclusion coming up. Thank you. In conclusion, call it what you will, lack of disclosure, ineffective disclosure, improper disclosure, untoward impacts, it doesn't really accord well with the general principle of administrative law, which this area falls under, of a right to be heard. We uncovered by ourselves more of what we wanted to know, and how much more might there be. Thank you for your time. The more precise details in my written submissions should form part of the public record. I also look forward to proper disclosure of options in the public record as well, and a reconsideration of the Chris Court option. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Kuske? No. Thank you. Next are St. Jacobs residents Jana and George Karger. Welcome.
Good evening. George was supposed to get his own time, so I'm trying to be brief, but he may need a little bit of extra. So good evening to everybody, and sorry.
Carry on.
Oh, sorry. Typical marital thing, you know. Okay. I have also submitted most of this in a written recommendation, but unfortunately, last year, when we were here for the meeting, the first one with Polocorp, I'm afraid that the councillors, who must have been exhausted, really didn't even look half alive. So I decided I'll read this to you now, and then you know what's going to be in the written report. Okay. Council has rightly understood that it cannot act until the region has completed its surveys of the water situation and the St. Jacobs wastewater treatment plant. Insufficient capacity exists for new developments in the region and have therefore been deferred. Over the last few years, every level of government, whether provincial, regional, or municipal, has failed in due diligence, putting the proverbial cart before the horse. Let me introduce you to Chris Court. It's a small, stable neighborhood established over half a century ago. Some of the owners are original. We're not an elite group, but comprise people from all walks of life. For example, truck drivers, business owners, teachers, religious leaders. Many have worked locally and have also volunteered their time because as residents of St. Jacobs, we believe in giving to our community. In 2025, we were dismayed when we heard 2 large developments are planned on either side of Hawkesville Road, knowing it would change the fabric of the village and our own neighborhood. We did not realize at the time, however, that our concerns would be ignored by the township and Polocorp, which apparently has an overly strong influence in the region and over our council. Indeed, to add insult to injury, together with the developer, you are now proposing to destroy a peaceful neighborhood that has existed for over 50 years. To bring sewage from the proposed adjacent development, as well as from part of the Schlegel development, into a small street of 11 houses is inconceivable. This sewage should obviously be taken directly from both developments to Hawkesville Road. Since they must also be connected to water, it makes sense. If additional costs are involved, the developers, perhaps with some help from the township, should accept responsibility. But we also have a further serious concern. The Polocorp development has only one exit to Hawkesville Road, the other being an emergency exit. We're therefore left wondering whether there's a more nefarious reason for wanting to buy a house in our street. What plans do they have for this property if and when they gain possession? We have our suspicions regarding access to and the disruption of our quiet street. Therefore, we strongly object to option 3, and we urge you to reject this new, short-sighted proposal from developers who only have profit as their concern. At the very least, councillors, you need to defer any decision and insist that things be done logically and properly, using Hawkesville Road for both water and sewage. In planning present and future expansion, short-term gain will not benefit the township. Indeed, the very opposite is probable. The residents of Chris Court are more than just numbers and faceless, even though that is how we feel we are being treated. Why should we be penalized and bear the onus for something we have never wanted or supported? We are therefore asking our elected officials to please acknowledge that we who live and work here and contribute to our community have value and that we deserve your support and respect. Thank you.
As I pointed out in my thing, I've lived in St. Jacob since 1947. So I'm an old timer. Now, I really can't add anything different than what was set up to now, except even between my wife and myself, we can't seem to agree on anything. You people put out so much information that we could do this, we can do that, we could do something else. It becomes so confusing that in the end, I don't think anybody knows what's happening anymore. Now, at the same time, I don't think Chris Court or our little center should become a sewage centrum. What happens if we get a leak in the sewage? Unfortunately, it's running north from our place. The leak will come down and just flood the rest of it. Who's responsible for that? And at the same time, we were told last time Polocorp wants to develop this area beside us. We weren't too happy. We can't do anything about that. But where, as everybody says, where do they have the right to come out, take away part of our part? Just like we couldn't do anything to their part, they shouldn't be able to do anything in our part. And thirdly, just to make a kind of an interesting situation, obviously, all this traffic is going to devalue our properties. I hope this is going to show up in the assessment and our taxes will go down. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions for Mr. and Mrs. Karger? Councillor
Or for
Schlegel?
staff, if I could. I don't know if it's for Ms. Rupe or Ms. Fox, but I was definitely concerned about removal of that house, short-term or long-term. I'm really curious why a house would need to be removed and why that pipe can't be installed through, I managed to dig a tunnel underneath the English Channel, which is 30 odd kilometers. Can we not do a couple hundred feet accurately somehow with a boring machine, or I guess I'd like to understand the technology there.
Who would like to take that on? Mr. Poupey?
Yeah, maybe it's a joint response through you, Mayor Shantz, to Councillor Schwint. So as far as methodology for installing a sewer system, open cut would be the most cost effective. Installing infrastructure under an existing building would not be preferred. There's a lot to digest in there as far as are the soil suitable for trenchless technology? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the plan would be for that property, quite frankly, either. If the house was to stay, is there the ability to install the sewer via trenchless or open cut? I can't speak to that yet. There's more details to be fleshed out. And then if there was the house to be removed, could a house be built again and still respect an easement for access for maintenance? That's be how I would answer that at this stage.
Councillor Cadeau?
I don't know how unorthodox you're going to allow me to get here, Mayor, but I guess I regret not asking Polocorp when they were at the stand there. I shouldn't call it a stand. That sounds like a disposition or something. But what is the intentions with that purchased property after the line's been run, everything's settled, it's sitting empty now? Are there any intentions with that property? We heard, we don't want to see a road in there. We'd like to see more of a custom home. So I don't know if I can ask that to Polocorp.
I'll allow that. Mr. Puopolo?
Through the chair, we're with township and stakeholders about the proposal for that particular property, whether it be, I've heard that, they don't want sidewalks through there. They want to park it further away, whether we can do trenchless with potential for a house to remain there, that would be great. But I know that it's not ideal to build a sanitary trench below existing house. So I'll leave that to the engineers to determine. But yes, we are very, very open to discussions about the reprogramming of that particular site.
Okay, thank you. Anything else before we go on with the other delegations? Oh, just one more thing.
Just wanted to be effectively clear. There's going to be no access like via a road or anything through Chris Court to our development. Thank you.
Okay, Thank you.
May I say one word? The problem is we cannot trust or have belief in what Polocorp tells us. And what they say today may not be what happens in 1 year or 2 years. And when they come to council and say, oh, we'd like to have access to Chris Court, I really think I would take that with a grain of salt.
Okay, we're not going to get into back and forth debating here, so, thank you. Our next delegate is Richard Scheid. Scheid, sorry. 50-50 chance, and I got it wrong. And I need to apologize to Sue. She sent me an email. I did forward it to council, but I didn't forward it to the clerk, so it didn't make our package. So we did see her letter, though. So
Fair enough. I live at 10 Chris Court. So if I could appreciate if you could put up the map there that showed Chris Court, because I have some concerns. But first of all, Sue Weidman, who's my next door neighbor, asked if she could submit something in. She couldn't make the meeting, and she asked if I could read. So I'm going to read what Sue had written. A major concern is a lack of transparency by township and the developer. I attended the meeting on May 13th, 2025 regarding the proposed development at 5155 Hawkesville Road. At the time, the development proposal indicated that a pumping station would pump sewage to Hawkesville Road to access the sanitary main via the pumping station. Now, in this report to council with the recommendation to approve, there was a significant deviation from the initial presentation impacting the residents of Chris Court. My home for nearly 46 years, okay, long-term residents, we're kind of newbies. We've been only there for 43. Then with the proposal to purchase and probably destroy one of our longtime homes in order to install a main sanitary line through the property. In addition, the UP consulting report, and again, we were only able to find out about this a short while ago, and we did some research on this, and we got more information from the UP report than anything else that's been presented to us from before. But anyways, Sue has gone saying the UP consulting report indicates that there is a possibility of it's changing from a condominium complex to a planned subdivision. So there's changes there. It also aligns a lot directly behind 9 Chris Court as a parquet, lined up with 9 Chris Court and Mentis. And this is what Jana is talking about to Chris Court. This seems somewhat underhanded with a major change being recommended only days before the meeting requesting approval, allowing little time for councilors or residents to consider the impact this change may have on the township and the residents most affected. It would seem like this change in direction would precipitate some additional consultation before the decision-making process occurs. Other concerns with water, wastewater, and water capacity are still uncertain, so there seems to be no need for a speedy decision. There are more points in my this is Sue's written submission, sent in on Monday, January 19th for circulation to all. I trust you've taken the time and opportunity to review all submissions before making a decision. I respectfully request that we get some response addressing the concerns that have and continue to be raised around this project, and that you not make any decisions without carefully considering all options and submissions from longtime residents of St. Jacobs and Woolwich, whom are being most affected. Sue Weidman, 11 Chris Court. Now, Margaret and myself, we sent in a letter, and more or less we're saying the same thing as the other residents. There really isn't any one person saying one thing and the other. We're all united in the same thing. And I think one thing you have to realize is that we've been here for over 40 years and some people 50 years. So I think there should be some credit given to the long-term stability of this neighborhood. Just to describe the neighborhood, we have a potluck on the street every summer, every year for over 40 years. We have Christmas dinner, everybody comes together. If everybody can say, oh, in their neighborhood, the neighborhood gets together, yeah, you have friends, but this is what our neighborhood is all about. So I want to talk about a couple things that I won't say, or, well, I will say a bit of a shock, because last Wednesday, we got a note that, and I want to point here, and I want people to think about, I am 10 Chris Court. This is the line going through here. We're talking about the house being destroyed, okay? You can't pick that up for me. I can speak louder. Okay, so anyways, I get a note here on Wednesday that this is coming through. We didn't know anything about this sanitary sewer. So put yourself in my position. You're sitting there, you've been living there for more than 40 years, and they're coming along and say, by the way, the township is coming along and they're gonna rip down a house and put a sewer line. So how many people think that say, oh, that's kind of cool? Or how many people are gonna think they're gonna be upset? So people think that it's okay, put your hand up. I don't see any hands. Why not? Because it was very unfair for you guys to come along and say 9 Chris Court without even beforehand us being able to research. So now we have to dig in, start talking. So I talked to the people yesterday, Mike from Polocorp. And again, I know Mike's dad from before. We had a good discussion. Fairness there, okay? I don't know the Schlegel guys individually, but I know the reputation. Again, I'm really disappointed in the township, the way this has been handled. So I think the last thing I want to say is I want everybody to take a look at that flag. Look at the flag right now. And that flag indicates what Woolwich is all about. Our core principles are not Toronto. It's not Kitchener-Waterloo. We're St. Jacobs. Look at that, think about that, and think about your decisions which are made. That's why I'm living here. That's why I'm proud to be a resident here. But I also too, if you want to be part of this community, you have to look out for everybody that's a resident. So it's up to the councilors. It's your duty. And I looked this up. Your duty as a councilor. What's the job of a town councilor? It's to represent the residents. To represent the residents. So I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Okay. Just for process, and I know it's really hard to separate all the pieces of this. What we're looking at tonight is the servicing piece, which you've all referenced. And so you've referenced what we're doing, but tonight we're not making any decisions on either of the developments per se. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. Excuse me, our last delegate is Mr. David Baker, resident of Chris Court. Mr. Baker, here? He's not here? Okay. The clerk tells me we do have an unregistered delegate. Would council like to hear? Yes? Do we have a name? If you're the unregistered. Oh, well, he didn't tell me that. Come on up, Sue. And how much time do we give unregistered delegates?
Through Mayor Shantz, if council's willing, procedural bylaw allows for 5 minutes, so I'll put that on the clock.
You good with that?
I am good with that because, so I want to preface by saying, I had mentioned to you about 2 councillors who went before the region to speak for Woolwich and that dumb idea of putting bike lines down Main Street. And you told me that they were successful, the way they presented. So whoever you are, I want to thank you for that. I appreciate whenever council does speak up for Woolwich in ways that we all agree with. I want to say to Vaughn that obviously our brains don't work the same. And I tried to follow, couldn't put it all together, but I appreciate the tone you used. I appreciated what I was able to absorb. And so I approve your message tonight, Vaughn. And your message, bang on. as is yours, because so I live on Northside Drive. So this does not affect me, but I came with highlights here, but I think these people really covered the concerns of people who have lived here in St. Jacobs, who moved here years ago or even recently for a reason, and we need our voices to be heard. And what I took this and I just, I didn't come prepared like I usually do. So it's much more relaxing this way. I highlighted just some things off of the thing that you sent out. And since you only want to talk about Chris Court, I think it's important what they're saying, which relates back to that thing that you guys all put together about development, how it should reflect the what currently exists. So on Chris Court, when they're talking about no sidewalks and no doing whatever, I think you need to respect that. Because that is the current environment, which is what am I referencing something that the right way that do you know what I'm talking about when I say that thing you put together? I wish somebody would just go like this, just one person. Beautiful. Okay, so I hope that you will take what they have said tonight with the importance that it holds. And I guess in thinking of all of this, it feels to me like, you know, the old Tupperware game with the shapes. It's like you're trying to put the triangle into the circle. And I just hope that, you know, the cart before the horse, these are important issues that, like, we know the development has to take place. We didn't invite these two corporations to buy the property and develop it the way it is. Provincial elections have consequences, and I hope everyone remembers that who voted Conservative. So I don't know. I don't really have anything to say. Because I'm not going to say what I did for the highlights, because it doesn't have to do with tonight. We're just having a conversation. But I do hope that what they said is how we feel also on Northside Drive. It's quiet, it's established, we moved there for a reason, and these developments have the potential of destroying what's very special that you can't find other places. So that's really all. Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, here you are.
Yes, I
have a short comment if I can.
are you Mr. Baker? You can have the podium, you can have 7 minutes, you registered ahead, so.
Yeah, sorry for my tardiness. I've read the submissions of my neighbors. I'm a member of the Chris Court community. I don't have anything substantial to add. I do have a couple of points, but I am going to keep those off the record for now. If I can get to deliver my comments directly to you, Mayor Shantz, that will suffice.
Sure. If you have them in writing, do you want to give them to the clerk? Sure. And I'm assuming you want me to share that with council? Yes. I will do that. Thank you. So we have written submissions from Brill and Julie Jameson, Mark Scheid, Jane and Paul Gross, which have been circulated this afternoon as well.
Mayor Shantz, there were a few references to submissions and comments that we didn't get on the original agenda package, whether they were submitted late or hadn't been sent to the clerk's office yet. We will make sure we republish those later this week, so they will be available for the public record. And then, of course, we will share them with our development engineers and planning department, so they can read those comments as well.
Thank you. Okay, that's all the delegations. We do have a recommendation in front of us based on this. If you've got any more questions or want to address the recommendation? Councillor Cadell.
Yeah, I have one question for staff, Mayor. So through you, we heard from residents concerns about sewage backup if we're bringing a sewage line into this community. Are we going to see upgrades with the existing sewage to allow the facilitation of the sewage away, or is there a lot of capacity there to be able to handle all of these new developments?
I can answer that.
Ms. Fox?
Sure, through the chair to the councillor. Yeah, a very comprehensive servicing capacity studies need to be done for each development when it gets submitted to the township. They're done to make sure that the downstream servicing can accommodate. So they would still need to do that. We've done an overall sort of bird's eye look at what is there now and the condition of what is there now, just to enable us to come up with this servicing strategy. But yes, detailed inspection of the downstream services to make sure that they can accommodate both the capacity and their condition. They will be done with the submissions by the consultants for them. Yeah.
Anyone else? Councillor Schwint.
Thanks. For staff, looking at the existing sewer leaving Chris Court, it goes between, the map was up 2 existing houses heading southeast.
Yeah. That's number 18. Yeah, that's.
So I guess looking at that, I'm guessing there's not an 11-meter easement through there. So what is our plan for dealing with any future repairs or necessary changes in that situation? And if we can, is there a way we can have the same solution at, I guess, 9 Chris Court? What I'm hearing today loud and clear is we want to protect the integrity of the existing houses and community, and tearing a house down, digging a big hole and replacing it kind of defeats that purpose. It's occurring to me that if we can do it on one side of the street, can we figure out a way to do it on the other side of the street and minimize the impact on the community?
I'm not quite sure I followed, but maybe Ms. Fox.
Right, I can say that, sorry, I had said 18, it's actually number 4 is the Chris Court lot, and then the 18 is actually where it comes through onto Northside Drive there, the one that backs onto it. So I believe that the sanitary sewer that runs along the Chris Court lot, the number 4, that would have been put in likely even before the houses were put in at that point in time. So they can then install the sewer and then put the house in, and it's a different situation than trying to put a pipe in through where existing foundations and structures are. The other thing is, back then, our standards weren't the same as far as the space that we needed for maintenance of that pipe. So the likelihood of that being a sufficient width of easement, it likely isn't what to the standards of today, but that's what we've got there. I mean, if we ever had an opportunity to help those property owners to protect that space, I mean, you do that through easements, and that would do. Backing onto it, that 18, there's a large area that's between the house and the property line, so it's not the same situation. I don't think that, so the 9 Chris Court where we've indicated the pipe going through, I don't think there is enough space there for that house to remain and the pipe to go through. There are, you know, as you indicated, there are some directional boring options that could be looked at, but I just want to make it clear it's not really likely a feasible option.
Councillor Bryant.
Thank you. Through you to either Lori or Jared. What is the age of the current sewer system on Chris Court?
Mr. Puopolo.
It's my understanding that the entire service area of St. Jacobs was in around the mid to late 70s when water and sewer was brought. So I'm going to assume that is about the similar vintage there, 77, 78-ish, something like that. I think that's all of St. Jacobs was kind of serviced around that same time in that vintage.
And then
it's concrete sewer, just so we're clear of the material type too.
and it's one follow-up. what's the lifespan of a sewer system then is my next question.
Yeah, so concrete, we would estimate to have a service life of 100 years. You can line concrete very easily too, so there's issues there. We know that inflow and infiltration is a challenge, and as things age, they tend to deteriorate and you can get leakier systems. So that is certainly a program that would be potentially implemented. I think the piece that needs to be explored, obviously, is the capacity of the existing system and to ensure that it supports that. If an upgrade is required, that would be something that would have to be vetted and discussed on what that looks like. I think to Councillor Schwint's question, that is a problem for us not having proper access in areas. I wouldn't want to endorse that going forward as new development comes online. I think we want to ensure that we avoid some of those challenges that we have with older locations such as this. We would have certainly rights to the public service, but it does create complications if there is no formal easement in place. Certainly that's challenging. If the size is sufficient and there was remediation required, this would be a perfect lining candidate, and the township has had great success in lining sewers. So that would be an option for rehabilitation. And that useful life, they are estimating to be approximately 50 years additional useful life. But again, we probably haven't had enough lining in the ground to determine what that true useful life is.
I could one more. Do we know if that sewer system that's currently in place across, is it 18 or whatever across the street is big enough to handle the sewage from both of those developments?
Mr. Poupet, do you want to try this time? Ms. Fox.
Sure, through the chair to the councillor. We took a quick look at it and the sizing of it now, and it does appear, we also had a peer reviewer take a quick look at it as well. It does appear that the downstream system is sized to accommodate the flows that would come into it. Condition, that's another thing. Like I said, that would all get looked at. And then a really detailed dive into the sizing of it would still need to be done, and developments that are proposed would only be able to send what it can handle.
So I guess my final question would be, if we find that pipe is too small for those houses, what do we do if there's a house already on that property?
Excuse me, do you mean that existing property there?
Sorry, yeah, the existing one.
Number
What-
4?
Yeah.
Well, then that was, as Jared said, the best thing to do with that would be to line it and but if it's too small, the downstream pipes, it would either have to be replaced, or it would be, or the properties upstream. I mean, they can only provide the sewage to the system that it can handle. So it would have to be upgraded.
Is that possible with the existing house on that property?
It would have to be looked at.
Okay.
It would have to be looked at, yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Schwintz.
This would be for Ms. Freeze, but what controls at this point in the process does council have in terms of future use if sewer is put in on 9 Chris Court and house is torn down? Is there site-specific provisions that would be part of the process that later on? How do we get assurances for the community?
Through you, Madam Mayor. So 9 Chris Court will have specific zoning on the property. So if they were to tear down the existing building, even outside of this whole process, if any owner of the property were to tear down the existing building, they would only be able to do what was permitted in the existing zoning. Does that answer your
Which
question?
is,
Well, I can check the zoning, but I'm assuming it's probably single detached and might allow semi, but I can check.
Okay. Anyone else? Yeah. Mr. Brenneman.
Thank you. Before council has a little bit of further debate and discussion, I'm wondering if Deanne and Lori, I can ask a little bit for your help on, I know there's a lot of passion in the room with respect to this particular issue, but I think there's also a lot of questions and confusions around process related to the fact that developers will come forward with their plans based on how they would like to service their particular development. At the end of the day, though, based on my longtime experience, even in the planning and development field, the reality is that, talk tonight is people's obligations. It's planning and development engineering's staff's obligation to report to council, and not just council, but on behalf of the public and the community, to look at the grand picture in terms of what the servicing solution should be, not just for one particular development and another, but the greater picture. And I think that's some of what's lost tonight in terms of, you know, the confusion and the questions regarding process. And I appreciate that. You know, people have said, well, this is what I thought Puopolos were doing. This is what I thought Schlegel were doing. But I think the disconnect is that at the end of the day, there is an obligation on the township, which is both council and staff, to be able to look at what is the best option or options going forward for both developments or for the, you know, entire area. Because at the end of the day, let's just take something like, and we've had these discussions with the developers. Generally speaking, over the years working for a municipality, you don't like to inherit down the road or have the risk of inheriting pumping stations. As council knows, we're 8.8% behind in terms of our asset management. The last thing that we need is a piece of infrastructure that we might have to replace down the road because the developer's not going to replace it. We end up potentially, again, I know one of the options was it would be under a plan of condominium, but even with that, there's risks. So at the end of the day, when we're talking about protecting the best interests of the municipality and the community, that's also the balancing act that comes into play because, yes, definitely you're hearing tonight the passion about St. Jacobs and Chris Court residents. But when we also look at the flag in Woolwich Township, we have an obligation to the entire community of Woolwich Township and to make sure we're making infrastructure investment decisions for the future that we're not going to inherit, that are going to be a problem long-term and be more expensive for the entire tax base to replace on a regular basis. So those are some of the things, you know, I think were important to talk about relative to process and how the township has to consistently look, whether it's St. Jacobs or Elmira, Bloomingdale, Conestoga, wherever it is, the broader picture is important to speak to. And I don't know if Deanne and Lori have anything else to add to that, just from their experience, but I think because of the passion in the room, we also have to speak about what we're obligated to do in terms of looking at the broader picture and things.
Okay, thanks. Ms. Freeze, did you want to add anything to that?
I don't think that there's anything else I need to say there. Like we are at this time looking at a comprehensive servicing plan for the area. We're not looking at the individual developments. I know there was a lot of discussion about a parkette being beside the development and connection to for sidewalks and things like that. Those other items would be looked at with the subdivision plan. At this point, we're looking at what's the best servicing plan for the area, and that's underground servicing. That's not the surface, but that's underground. And then also I did follow up on the R3 zone. So regardless of whether anything happened on the property at 9 Chris Court, they would be permitted to do what's allowed in the R3 zone, which does allow singles, semis, duplex, triplex, fourplex with a maximum of 50 units per hectare. So in this property, down side yards of 1.2 and maximum building height of 10.5 to 12 meters. So a low density form of development would be the only thing permitted in an R3 zone.
Okay, thank you. So council, we do have a recommendation in front of us for the servicing only. Oh, before we get to that, Ms. Freeze, for the people in the room, can you talk about the process, further process in terms of the development?
Yep. So again, through you, Madam Mayor. So both developments, the Schlegel site as well as the Polocorp site, both have gone through their statutory public meeting, and they're now in a stage where we're doing our internal and agency review of of the two plans. The next step in this process would be the next formal step in this process would be to come back to council with a recommendation. If there's significant changes to a plan, they would have to go through another statutory public meeting. If there's not significantly or deemed by council changes to the plan, they can come forward with a recommendation to council. It would be a staff recommendation to council, and then council could choose if they wanted to approve the draft plan of subdivision. So this stage now, we're still in the review stage, and there's still opportunities to have discussions if people have other things that they bring up about the original plan that was proposed through the statutory public meeting.
And so remind everyone of how they do that.
At any time, you can, we do have our website available with all of the studies that were submitted for each of the plans of subdivision and a contact name. So you're welcome to reach out there. You're welcome to reach out to myself directly. And we do have a planner that will be on each of these development applications. That would be, his name is Stephen Dykstra in this case, for any kind of questions that you might have. We're happy to have meetings with individuals as well. And like I said, this process that we're talking about today is just about the comprehensive servicing plan for the area. And we're just trying to put together a servicing strategy that's cost effective, doesn't have any unnecessary infrastructure, and is comprehensive in the servicing of the entire area.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cadeau.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you to the rest of council, I know that there's a couple of recommendations in front of us, but we have heard from a number of property owners, including a developer, that a deferral would be appreciated on this, and I tend to agree with that. I think that we have covered a lot of ground here tonight. It's given me a lot to think about, especially hearing from residents of Chris Court, and I'm just not confident that I'm ready to make a decision on this tonight. So I don't know where the rest of council stands on that, but I would like to put forward a motion of deferral.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor to defer. So that's, you can't debate deferral, just time and place.
I was going to say the same thing, Mayor Shantz, you're correct. Typically, a motion to defer would set out time if council wants to have a discussion on the time. I think for anyone in the audience, it probably would be good for them to know when you're deferring it to if they want to stay informed on this issue.
Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
My name is
Sir,
Daniel. I did not register to vote, but I do live at 60 Hawkesville Road. So I'm really directly impacted with this. I'm right adjacent to the road.
Okay, thank you.
Previously before, and I had a question, just a short question, a comment actually.
This is out of our normal routine, so I'm just gonna, just hang on a minute. I'm gonna ask council if they want to allow it. Yes, go ahead. Use the mic, please.
Hi. My name is Jim Daniel. I live at 60 Hawkesville Road, St. Jacobs. And as such, I am directly impacted by the two developments, principally the Schlegel development. The reason I asked for this indulgence was that I listened to Mr. Bender make his presentation regarding the sewer as such, his view on how the sewer should be handled. He indicated that given the current level, depth of the sewer at the moment, and it was extended, it could service 56 and 60 Hawkesville Road, which is a positive view to the public. But that is in direct conflict to what Mr. Bender said to me and the owner of 56 Hawkesville Road last summer, when he said, due to and using his words tonight, the significant drop off of Hawkesville Road down towards the railway tracks, he could not hook up 60 Hawkesville Road to the existing sewer line as it is, water line as it is. It just is not feasible. This is a direct contradiction of what Mr. Bender is saying in public and what he said to me in private. I asked him how this would impact the value of my property. He said, it would. And what's more, it would make my property 2 acres not developable. So consequently, I am left with 2 acres that cannot be rebuilt on. And I am very concerned that he would make just to repeat, I'm very concerned that he would make a statement in public that it could be serviced, when in private he said to me, it cannot be serviced.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, thank you for your indulgence. Thank you.
Thank you. I will ask staff, is there concerns with servicing those 2 additional properties to the west?
So I can respond and Lori can as well. The servicing solution that is proposed, the comprehensive servicing solution that is proposed in council's package would allow servicing of those properties. I think that the situation that was discussed with Vaughn was probably something that's a little bit different than what staff is proposing in the report.
Okay, thank you. The clerk's going to call me on rules of order here in a moment. We have a motion on the floor to defer. Unless you want to have more discussion tonight and hold the motion to defer.
I'm willing for discussion if council wants to discuss.
I'd appreciate that, because if we defer, I think we should have some criteria on how we're going to use that time of deferral and what our concerns are and what the developers and staff could be talking about before coming forward.
We can do the motion to defer and then give direction after that. If
So we don't know timeline.
I'll ask what's better.
What's better? You can always, I guess you could do it both ways. You could have a motion to defer, you can vote on the time for deferral or discuss the time for deferral and then direct staff, what you want to do after that. Sometimes it's easier if council does want to have those discussions, what are we going to do with the deferral time? Sometimes it's easier to start with that and then vote on the motion just so you know what you're voting on and you're prepared for what that looks like.
Okay, let's have the discussions so we know how much time we might need. Go ahead.
I understand time is of the essence for the Puopolo parcel and anyway, and I want to be of help there and try and meet their deadlines at the same time to make a proscript of this is going to be our servicing agreement when I'm hearing 3 or 4 questions, and we can do this haphazardly or we can do this well that minimizes impact on the community. So I'd like to take the time, do it well, minimizing the impact, while trying to work with proponents, Polocorp, and assuring them somehow that they do have a servicing agreement, not agreement, but a servicing access for that property. I don't know if there's other mechanisms we can provide other than stating this is the plan. Can we state there will be a plan? Will that be enough assurance for Polocorp? Would be a question I would have.
I'll defer to Ms. Freeze, but I think it would be important to know what the plan is.
Yeah, through you, Madam Mayor, I think what is key in allowing staff to continue to process both of these applications is to have a clear comprehensive servicing plan. It can have a plan that would include the primary servicing option on Chris Court and an alternative with a deep sewer on Hawkesville, as long as they are a comprehensive plan that we can move ahead with. I don't know if Ms. Fox wants to.
Ms. Fox?
I agree with what she said. Yeah.
Okay.
So the staff could spend the time working out some criteria for the Chris Court scenario in terms of what we would like to see in that and limitations and just minimizing disruptions. I'd be in favor of that. And also stating so that staff will also work with other developers on alternative servicing tie-ins. over the next period of time.
When you say other developers, do you mean the other property, like the two west properties or?
And Schlegel, so those three.
Okay. So we've got some time constraints on the deferral, and we're asking staff, I think what I heard was how we can have minimum disruption in putting either of the two options in force. Is that what you asked?
How do we make the Chris Court work for the residents? I know staff would love to have a 11-meter easement. We don't have that other places, so I'm sure we could find a way to work with a 3 to 4 meter easement and maintain that house. That, to me, is a way to figure it out. It's not ideal for sure, but we're trying to balance the community versus development.
Councillor Bryant.
Thank you. Can we get assurances from the region that we have the sewage capacity to handle these developments? I know they've said we can, but we've had backups in some houses, and I'm a little concerned that maybe there might be sewage capacity issues. I don't know, but I'm just questioning that we do have the capacity, and we're not going to find we've got issues after we approve everything and find, oops, we shouldn't have allowed that many houses because it is going to cause us problems. I'm just trying to sort this out.
Speak to that, Ms. Fox.
So just again, through the chair to the councillor, this is just a concept for the plan. This is the overall strategy for the plan. The individual needs of the sewage, the pipes and the capacity and all that, that will be determined once the developments come forward, because that is really a development-based decision that's made. Everything gets reviewed to make sure. The region will be reviewing as well, so they're going to be commenting on whether capacity is there. We also have our own peer reviewer that looks at servicing capacity as well. So there's a lot that still needs to be done to make sure that the servicing capacity is in place for this. This is just an overall strategy for the area.
Okay, we've got a motion to defer. I think, Ms. Freeze, I saw you writing. Do you know what we're asking for? Yes. Councillor Cadeau.
We meet next week. That would be my preference, because much to Councillor Schwent's point, I would like to see this move faster and slower. I think the concern really stems from residents feeling as if, excuse me, this is moving too quickly without enough input on our part. So an extra week would give residents that extra time to provide us with their feedback as well.
Okay, so motion to defer.
I think that's half of it. I think we also need to take that week for the Schlegels and Polocorp to try and come to some consensus on how this could be funded. If we start weighing on the scale, nobody's gonna be happy with us. I think there's now pressure on two developers to figure this out, and maybe it'll happen. If not, we're gonna make a decision.
So the motion to defer till next Tuesday. All those in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so we'll consider this next Tuesday then at our meeting. Okay, I'm going to go back to council. Is that what you'd like me to do? Okay. 6. Page 5. There's this. Thank you.
I guess you could kind of. You have the other one.
Yeah.
Okay, council. We'll resume with council where we left off on item 4 on your agenda. And we have no items coming forward from closed, no public meetings, no presentations. We dealt with our delegations in committee. We do have 5 consent items. Does anyone want to pull any of the consent items? Would someone like to move the consent agenda? Councillor Grant, Councillor Bryant, all those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. We have no unfinished business, but we do have budget. And yeah, we talked budget out last week, and you wanted to bring it back tonight to see where we could go. I will again reiterate my great thanks to council, to staff, and to everyone who had a hand in this, all the staff. It's been a different process, and that's had its own share of kind of difficulties, but I think we've come through it really well. So I guess I'll call on Director of Finance, Colin Lynn, to go over the changes.
Sure, thank you. And through you, Mayor Shantz. As you know, we met last week to discuss the budget. So this isn't normally a budget night, but I think there was general consensus related to the budget with just some minor amendments. So next week, again, as a reminder, we'll be discussing the water and wastewater budget. And this will be kind of the final discussion, again, up to council's discretion, if you want to have further discussions related to the budget. Wanted to provide a few updates based on last week's council meeting. There was 2 amendments in the budget related to removing the market study. So the market study has been removed from the budget. I've circulated in the agenda and also in paper to council. An updated capital budget. It's the large item, and there's a highlighted item for the pay and equity market study. It's still in there just to show at a $0 amount. That was funded through the operating contingency reserve, so that's being removed from the capital budget. The second budget amendment that was approved was a removal of the DS position, the development inspector. So that's being removed from the budget, and that was drawn from the development engineering reserve. And so that's shown in Appendix 1, kind of the smaller sheet. It's just highlighted there. Again, there was no tax rate impact related to that position, but it's just shown as being removed in there. It's just highlighted and shown as being removed from the budget. The third item for discussion, and recreation staff are here as well if there's further follow-up questions, is related to the WMC parking lot. It was highlighted by Thomas last week that there was $75,000 that was changed to the funding related to the WMC parking lot. So originally, there was supposed to be the 75,000 of it was supposed to come from the climate levy. There was some discussion about whether this would involve electric vehicle chargers. There's no electric vehicle chargers. However, we did confirm the total cost is still 250,000. So that's 75,000 that was supposed to be made up from the climate levy. We're not drawing from the climate levy, and we're going to take that funding from the infrastructure reserve fund. So again, in the capital budget, that's highlighted. There's two items that are highlighted under facilities. The first or the second one, number 8, is the WMC parking lot replacement. So the funding is just shifted from the infrastructure or from the climate greening levy, which is under other reserves. So 250,000, the full 250,000 is being taken from the infrastructure reserve fund. And the way we balance then the capital budget is we've reduced the amount of infrastructure levy that would be going to fund the St. Jacobs Arena. So essentially that was at 1.1 million. Now it's at 1.025 million. And really that project is unfunded essentially. So there's still 1.175 million to be unfunded next year. So that project wasn't going to go ahead barring significant funding from upper levels of government. So we put in that 75,000 that's required essentially from other grants or other funding sources to complete the St. Jacobs Arena project. But again, it's more likely that that'll be pushed over till 2027 and we'll just rebudget that amount there. So another item is that infrastructure reserve allocation probably won't be spent in 2026 because we won't do that full project. So we won't draw the full 1 million or 1.1 million from that. So that's how we balanced the capital budget. And then the last sheet in your package here is a revised reserve and reserve fund forecast. Again, just as a reminder to council, all of the changes that I just went through and that were proposed as budget amendments, they had no impact on the tax rate. So the tax rate remains unchanged around 7.8%, less than $100 per household. But there was changes related to the items I just mentioned. We're putting another 75,000, or sorry, I'll start at the top. We're adding another $35,000 to the operating contingency because that's where the market study was going to be funded from. We're adding back 75,000 to the climate action reserve because that's where we drew from that item. There was no changes to the infrastructure reserve because it was just a change from the St. Jacobs Arena into the WMC parking lot. So there's no change in the actual draw from the levy. But there's also another 120,000 that was added back into the Development Administration Reserve, that last highlighted item. And that's to represent the draw that would have been coming for that new position that now isn't going to be drawn. So it just shows the amended reserve balances, not really a substantial change over that new picture, reflective of all of those changes. And then finally, going back to that cover page, that Appendix 1, the smaller page there, it just essentially, there's no changes. It's still at the 7.8%. But I'll just draw your attention to the fourth column there, the 2026 net cost. What we did in there is just add a total number of the total tax levy. So there was some discussion about making sure that that's total tax levy is $19,457,420. So that is the tax levy that is being proposed with all of the reserve transfers and everything else. Based on the 18 million in the previous column, 18,045, it's roughly a $1.4 million increase, which represents a 7.8% tax rate increase, or roughly 99.83 or 83 per household increase. So that just shows the total tax levy that we're looking at here. And with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions on that or anything else budget related that council may have.
Thank you. I'm glad you clarified budget related. Are there any other questions? Councillor Schwint.
Things keep on changing on us. I'm just wondering in process throughout the years, if we lose grants or grants change that finance capital projects, how or when do we decide not to proceed with them or find alternative funding? The example I'll use is paving parking lot here with no water, and if we don't meet our half targets, that money's not available. So how do we have a process built in to have checks and balances?
Mr. Lynn?
I'll start and I'll ask anyone else to jump in related to, but normally I would say for that project, there's usually a tender award that comes to council at that time, and council usually have an opportunity to ask questions of the project managers in the department that submits that. And I would suggest that we probably would want to secure funding before going out to tender and making sure that funding is in place. So there would be at least a check and balance from the finance side to know that that's potentially half funded. Again, it's not a formal process, but even after we went out to tender, before we would award that tender, would still come to council and show the funding breakdown. And then council will have the opportunity, if somehow we missed it during the usual vetting process, you could ask the question of whether the water supply issue is being resolved or the half funding item is being resolved. Those kind of checks and balances for those kind of grants. But we will be checking for anything before it goes out to tender to make sure that if there is any grants that has been secured before we would even post that something like that on our website.
David?
Yeah, and I would add though as well, that I believe there's always an opportunity for us, you know, as Colm could note, we monitor the monthly financial statements. We discuss them at senior management. There also is the quarterly reporting system as well that can be utilized with respect to draw anything to council's attention. So I think it's the combined sum total. You asked about what the check and balances are. I think, you know, we continue to look at opportunities for all the opportunities. Columns addressed one. I would say there will be two other times, which is the monthly financial statements and the quarterly report as well, with respect to doing those checks and balances.
There is a recommendation, a motion to amend the capital budget so that the WMC parking lot paving is funded 100% from the infrastructure reserve. Someone like to move that? Councillor Grant, seconded. Councillor Schwint. Further discussion? All those in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Are there any more amendments or discussions on the 2026 budget? The clerk's office has prepared a motion in case there are no more budget amendments, and if you want to shorten the period for budget amendments, if you're interested in passing it, we do have some wording that we can use. Do you want to put that up on the screen? I'll read it while he's doing that. Well, you've got it in your packages, I think, that the council shortens the 30-day budget amendment period and prescribe in Ontario Regulation 530/22, Section 7.3, so that the final day for amendments is January 20th, 2026. If you're interested in doing that, Councillor Bridges.
Thanks, through you, Mayor Shantz. Maybe Director Smith. That'd be today, it looks like. So if we don't pass this, what's the situation then? It just drags out the how many days, and how does that, do we need another motion, or does it just automatically ratify?
So through you, Mayor Shantz, under the Strong Mayor's legislation, Mayor Shantz has proposed a budget, and now once January 6th, once she put that out in the public, council has the ability to make amendments. Council's made, I think, 3 amendments by my count. We were also taking very detailed notes at the last budget meeting. So any research or things that you've asked us to look into mid-year, we are also looking into those. Council, like I said, council has a 30-day period to amend the budget. That period cannot be extended, but it can be shortened. So again, I put this on as an option on the agenda for council this evening. It sounded like council, at the last meeting, council was relatively satisfied, or at least didn't want to make any further amendments to the budget. So if you wished, you could move that motion tonight. If there's still some lingering questions, if there's more amendments that council wants to bring forward, we had originally reserved January 27th as a night for additional amendments. So you could either consider any further amendments again then, or consider a resolution to shorten your time at that point. The other option that council could consider is the 30-day time frame for amendments ends on February 5th. So if you don't pass a motion like that's optional on your agenda tonight, you could just let that period end. It sounded, again, we put this on the agenda because it sounded like council was wanting to do something like this, but again, it's fully in council's hands as to what they want to do.
So I'd be prepared to move a motion to shorten the period to today. We've had lots of conversations since September, which I think is a credit to Mayor Shantz and staff for allowing us to do that. The legislation of strong mayors doesn't prescribe that, which I don't think helps governance very well, but we've had good conversation. Ideas have been listened to, and while it's not a perfect budget in anybody's mind, I think it's one that I haven't heard new ideas come forward, so I'm ready to support it at this time.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Grant. Further discussion? All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff. Appreciate, again, all the hard work and discussions that we've had on this. And I think the clerk said the other piece to finish this is that I need to sign off that I'm not going to veto any of the amendments that were made. So I'm not going to veto any of the amendments that were made, just to be clear. Okay, our next item is election 2026. Clerk Smith.
Thank you, Mayor Shantz. In preparing for the next election, which will be held on October 26th this year, I brought a report in December, last year, in the last quarter of last year, for council to consider alternative voting methods. As a reminder, I noted that the township has successfully used internet voting in the past 2 elections, and then in 2022, we added paper ballot voting in addition to internet to provide options and choice for electors. Council, at the time, council supported internet voting in principle and asked that I come back after testing the market through a request for proposals to see if we could get a vendor that would meet. So tonight I'm reporting that we have found a preferred vendor and are still recommending 2 voting options for election 2026, internet voting and hand-counted paper ballot voting. To help to control cost, share ideas, and share some of the work, staff are planning to work with Wilmot and Wellesley with that vendor. We found we got better pricing, better communication, and sort of, again, sharing that workload when we did a joint request for proposals, and the clerks from those municipalities are on board at this time. When we tested the market, we looked at optional services, including telephone voting and tabulators to count paper ballots. Due to the added cost and complexity of those options, staff are not recommending telephone voting and are recommending continue to hand count paper ballots. As part of the hand counting of paper ballots, we definitely took the feedback last year that process was a little slow. So I want to spend some time to look at ways to speed that up, again, within the budget that we have. But I think I definitely have some ideas in terms of ways that we could speed up our counting and our service to the public. So with that, the report recommends council approve the 2 methods, internet voting and hand-counted paper ballot voting. Under the Municipal Elections Act, council is required to pass a bylaw. So there is a draft bylaw in your package this evening. That bylaw wouldn't be passed until the next meeting of council if council wishes to go down that road. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Councillor Burgess.
Through you, Mayor Shantz, just two questions. I guess the first one for internet voting. So we've changed our provider that did it from last time, and if so, just what's the difference? And number two, for the paid voting, will the locations be like? Will that be similar to last year? Just want to make sure it's accessible for everyone and locally.
So through you, Mayor Shantz, the internet voting provider we used last year is no longer in business. We have been going out to market each election. I think if we are really happy with the vendor that we have this year, we may start looking at multi-year contracts. But for now, we've been going out each election cycle, making sure we get the best vendor. And that's what we're recommending with Votes, who's the preferred vendor after the RFP. To answer your second question, oh my God, I drew a blank there.
Locations.
Thank you. I had it, and I lost it.
Councillor Cadeau's feeling really good right
Yeah.
now.
So we are proposing one voting location, one paper ballot voting location, where you could also get help with internet voting or any other services with the election, adding your name to the list, making any changes to the list. One main voting location in each ward, as we did in last election.
Councillor Cadeau.
Thanks, Mayor. Through you, I just want to thank staff for going forward with a joint request for proposal. Linking up with Wellesley and Wilmot, I think is fantastic. I guess the question is this the first time we've done that?
Through you, Mayor Shantz, we have done that in the past two elections. And generally it's been quite beneficial. We like to share ideas. Share the workload a little bit. We can say, oh, we're experiencing this. How are you guys dealing with that? It's really helpful. I think it really speaks to the collaboration in the region. We have some very specific needs in Woolwich, Wellesley, and Wilmot, so we find that that group works quite well together. And finally, we found that our costs are generally quite lower when you're going out to market and you're a slightly bigger pool and then can share resources. Vendors give you better pricing.
Okay, there's a resolution. Someone like to move it? Councillor Burgess, Councillor Grant, all those in favor, and that's carried. Thank you. Next, we have the bylaws listed on the agenda. If I can have a mover and a seconder, Councillor Burgess, Councillor Bryant, all those in favor, and that is carried. Thank you. That concludes the council portion of the meeting. We need 5 minutes to switch around, and then this is Councillor Grant, but I believe it's Councillor Schwint that's chairing this.
Welcome back, council and staff. We're now meeting again as committee tonight. And first item on the agenda is 6.12, the Arthur Street reconstruction and Elmira bypass. We've got Director of Development Services, Deanne Fries, here to present the report and understand our options.
Can't get up to the spot where it lets me share it. There we go. There we go. All right, so the staff is coming to council because the region introduced these two projects through a public consultation process, and it gives council an opportunity to also provide comments back to the region on the two projects. They've been separated into Arthur Street Reconstruction, and that is the wrong map. That is the Arthur Street Reconstruction from Waterloo up to Elmira, and then the Elmira bypass. This is the wrong presentation. All right. I'll try again. Sorry. I don't know if Clerks has it either.
I can share the screen.
Sure, that might be easier. There we go. Okay, next slide. So two projects. Part A is the Arthur Street reconstruction or improvements from the edge of Waterloo up to the edge of Elmira. And the second project is the Elmira bypass. Next slide. Next slide. So starting with the Arthur Street reconstruction, there were four alternatives that were presented by the region at their public consultation. The first option is the do nothing option. That would be to leave it as is, the two lanes with the wide shoulder. It does cause some peak hour traffic delays and some delays at the rail crossings. Mayor Shantz had recommended immediate review of the intersection at Listowel Road and Arthur Street in the short term to Regional Council. The next alternative is for a 4-lane divided highway with a swale and a multi-use trail. Some concerns that were raised in the report for this are access issues for properties due to the grass swale separation. They wouldn't be able to cross over. So if you're trying to get to the opposite side of Arthur Street, either as a car or as a horse and buggy, you wouldn't be able to cross over. You'd have to go down to the intersection of Listowel and Arthur Street. Also, there's potential conflicts between horse and buggy traffic and trail users because this plan is showing that there would be an option for horse and buggies to share that trail, a multi-use trail. And then there's also, it was also raised that the trail that is proposed ends at Sawmill Road rather than going the full extent all the way down to the edge of Waterloo. Disconnect there because the users would have to get off the trail, go through St. Jacobs into the trail system, and then pop back out to connect to the trail that connects into the farmer's market. Next slide. Alternative 3 is 4 lanes with a center median. Same concerns with being able to access the other side of Arthur Street, and also potential for the horse and buggy conflicts on the multi-use trail and not being able to now cross potentially a swale and a median. This option did show that I guess horse and buggies could be on the shoulder or on the multi-use trail, so I'm not sure if that helps, but there would still be the crossing issue. And same comment about the trail ending at Sawmill. Alternative 3 would would maintain the existing 2-lane highway, but it would add a multi-use trail separated by a swale. There would still be the access issues for horse and buggies on the multi-use trail, as they wouldn't be able to access the other side of Arthur Street. Potential conflicts between horse and buggy traffic and cyclists on the multi-use trail. And same issue again with the trail ending at Sawmill, going through St. Jacobs, rather than connecting right down to the farmer's market. Next slide. So the summary of the preferred options and staff recommendations are included in your package, with some recommendations for what staff think is the best alternative, which is alternative 3. However, we would recommend that the removal of the swale also be considered to allow for that crossing over traffic to the other side of Arthur Street, and options to connect the trail all the way through St. Jacobs to connect with the existing trail from Waterloo and from the farmers market. Also, further emphasize that we would like to see that early review of Listerwell Road and Arthur Street improvements to help alleviate the congestion at that intersection. Next slide. The other project that the region is working on and did go up for public consultation is the Elmira bypass. Next slide. There was a few alternatives that were presented by the region. The first one is a west side bypass. It may be difficult to see on this map, but it's on the west side of Elmira using existing streets. Staff had some concerns with this option, as it's not actively used for formal truck traffic. There's a lot of impacts between residential area if you were going to try to move all the truck traffic over that way. And it doesn't really offer a efficient route through Elmira and deal with the current downtown traffic, because current downtown traffic would still go straight through Elmira. Next option, or next slide, sorry. The next option is a complete bypass south of Listerwell Road to Arthur Street. This was the option that was presented by the region. It does have a high cost to it, but it would significantly reduce the downtown traffic. And some sections could be built through future subdivisions. It would need still to have rail and watercourse crossings and upgrades there. And there would be quite a few land acquisitions needed in order to initiate this project. As I said before, it's high capital cost, but does provide a full diversion of Elmira with a full bypass, and supports the existing and future industrial areas on the east side of Elmira. Next slide, please. There is another hybrid option that kind of goes on the east side of Elmira, but uses some of the existing streets to connect through. Not the most efficient bypass option, but would use a lot of existing streets, so the cost would be significantly less than the other option, and would direct some of the traffic away from the downtown. However, it does have an intersection point at Church Street, which may cause traffic to continue to use that downtown as the preferred route once they get to that point, rather than going further east to connect to the rest of the bypass. Next slide, please. And then there's alternative 4. Again, same types of issues with using some existing streets, but not the most efficient way to get around the downtown. It doesn't have the same issue at Church Street, causing traffic to go back down to the core, but rather still goes a little bit more east to connect back in. It does not serve the existing industrial lands and would still have a significant cost for land acquisitions north of Church, but could use some existing roads south of Church. Next slide. And then there is the township preferred alternative hybrid option that we're also presenting to council. And this is the option that staff's recommending council support for. It uses as many of the existing roads as we can get through plans of subdivisions. So it would also add, if you'll see in that red portion on the map there, it adds some additional land to the settlement area, to the employment area, to allow that piece of property to also be developed through private development for industrial land. So it adds some additional land to the Elmira area to facilitate the future connections at lower cost because we could get them through development applications. It would still require some expropriation or land acquisition south of Listowel to connect into the bypass and north of Church Street. This option also only has one creek crossing and updated upgraded rail crossing. Also, as part of the recommendation that's in the package to council, we would request that the region also looked at potential connectors, and you'll see those are those blue dotted lines on the map to see where we could connect into the bypass route. But staff's recommending that this be considered as a preferred alternative because of the feasibility and the efficiency. Next slide. I think that's it. Oh, yeah, sorry, I just mentioned this through the previous slide, but there's an opportunity for connector roads to that hybrid bypass route, which we would request that the region look at through their evaluation of the bypass. Slide. Yeah, just a summary of what staff's recommending in the report, which is the hybrid alternative, because it provides the best balance of cost, functionality, and constructability. It also leverages existing infrastructure and supports the industrial growth of that area. It meets the requirement of diverting the truck traffic from the downtown Elmira area, and it has minimal impact on residential and environment. So staff is recommending that we advance that hybrid option. We're calling it 2B+4. I don't know. Next slide, sorry. And this is the final recommendations of the report, which does right now direct the township clerk to forward the comments from council to the region of Waterloo, which would typically go to the project management team on this project with the summary. Next slide, I think that's it. Yep, okay.
Thanks for that presentation. Before we look at the recommendation, do we have questions on what we just heard? Councilor Cadeau?
Thanks, Chair. Through you, I understand the second aspect of that and the proposed plan being that hybrid, but the first part of it in, south of Waterloo to, sorry, north of Waterloo to south of Elmira. I know that there's been a lot of resident feedback about wanting to see 4 lanes there. And so is it staff's position that 4 lanes isn't needed and we could probably make do with the 2 lanes that we have?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the region has identified in their work that 4 lanes is not warranted. Staff did not do our own evaluation of whether or not 4 lanes are warranted. We're just taking the region's recommendation on that and then looking at that 2-lane option.
I'll push back, and only because I sat in traffic for a really long time today with Floridale Road being closed. We were backed up further than I've ever seen before, having that one exit out of town. It would really be nice if we could, examine from our own perspective if that would be warranted. As professional as the regional staff are, it's always nice to kind of do your own due diligence, I find. So is that something that we could look into doing? What would the implications of that be?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we would have to get a peer reviewer to do that assessment that had expertise in transportation, and it would have a cost associated with it if council wants to go that route.
Okay. I'll let Mayor Shantz jump in now and then Councilor Burgess.
I guess just a comment on the 4 lanes, and I know it's been talked about for a long time, but I do appreciate the difficulty for, I mean, I watch horse and buggies try to get out from their farm lanes now, and to get across, if it was 4 lanes, would be really difficult. That said, something has to be done. Yeah.
Councilor Burgess?
Through you, Chair. Yeah, to Councillor Cadeau's point and Mayor Shantz, I think it really does need to be re-examined, maybe not necessarily on our dime and there's been a lot of feedback from residents. We've all driven those roads. We've all been stuck in traffic. There needs to be changes done. Right now they're proposing, I think it was around 25+ million to put in that multi-use trail. I think that money can be diverted to the plan here, the hybrid for our bypass, or again, to widening the lanes. That is my main focus of what I think the residents want, not this bike lane on the side. If that money can be put towards widening, I think that's an important topic too, and I think that should have a bigger discussion. And to point one here, we may want to amend that, but we can keep discussion before we go there.
Can we just follow up? I'm going to ask a question on your behalf, Councilor Burgess, to staff. Do you know when these projects may be slotted in pencil in the regional capital program?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if Jared does either. No, we can find out when they are slotted. I would also say to council that if they want more information, or if you want more information on the rationale for 4 lanes versus 2 lanes and what that point is, we could request a presentation or someone from the region that's on this project team to speak to council as well. I don't have the details on that. I'm just bringing it forward to regional staff for your comments. But if we want the expert that did that analysis or was part of the project, we could request they come and defer this to another meeting too.
Just the one pinch point, just for everybody to be aware, is the bridge separating sort of the Waterloo area. That's a live issue that region has pointed out. There's significant cost to that piece for a real true widening to happen. So the widening may only happen in stages, which obviously could still improve. They have set up the roundabout at St. Jacobs for that 4-lane potential. And I think, I believe Mayor Shantz did get the bypass part into the budget in the transportation capital plan.
It's, I asked to place it at 2030. It's sitting just as kind of a placeholder for now. There's more work that needs to be done, and I was just going to try to find when it is. I know there's something coming to regional council, I believe shortly, where we we'll have to do some prioritizing. There'll be some give and take, because to do that, some other projects will have to move. So I know that's coming up. If I can find it, I'll let you know, but I'm not sure when it is.
But based on that, my guess is that one project may advance in the time period. To expect both projects to happen, it's probably, so if we prioritize one as a township in our request, we'll probably have more luck and also better chance of getting a project designed how we like it.
Yeah, sorry, I was talking about the bypass, the 4-lane piece. I'm not sure where that stands. I did ask staff to look at some other options. So Doug Spooner was going to look at changing how the lights work at Listowel Road and see if that makes any difference. So there are some tweaks that can be done in the short term, and the region's willing to work on those for sure.
I guess I have a question for staff. Have we looked at the difference in cost and effectiveness ending that bypass at Kenning Place versus going up to Reedwoods? Just knowing those curves coming into my north end of town.
Staff have not done a cost analysis of that, no.
Councilor Burgess?
Through you, Chair. For this bypass, we're using some future development land and kind of taking the good timing of all that to save some money and get it done quicker. With development slowing down and all the water capacity issues and all that other stuff, I guess when we take this report to regional staff, I just want to note that for budgeting and all that, we should be, with the region, hopefully being able to put this all in ourselves. And then if we can get any reimbursement or cost recovery, that's great. But I don't want this to then, now that we've got it all approved, ready to go kind of thing, then all of a sudden now we wait another 10 years because the development's not happening. So I just want to make sure we have that plan in place.
Earlier, I heard to suggest we may want regional staff to come do a presentation to council. Is that something that's worthwhile and a timeline on that if it was?
I think that hits Councillor Burgess's point about getting somebody to describe this on their dime. So if we can do that without hiring a peer reviewer, I think that we can bring our questions and we can ask them on the spot, and hopefully we can get some of those answers.
Is that a February type conversation at one of our meetings? Is that reasonable, staff, for a timeline? February, is that reasonable? We need stretch goals.
Yeah, I would suggest that if you want regional staff here, that we have a little bit more flexibility between February and April, knowing that the comments or the plan is to report back to council in May. And I can try to work out a date that works in there.
That works for everybody? Perfect. So we've got one action item. Other discussion or comments? I guess one question I had for Mayor Shantz, is this something you want us to send recommendations through staff to staff? Or is this something that's beneficial for you to have at council?
I was going to ask why it's just going to staff and not to council. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is council's comments. So if council wants them to go direct to regional council, that is an option. The wording in the recommendation right now is that the comments go to the project managers on this project and will get included then in the report that goes to their council ultimately. But if you want a stronger opinion, then that is an option that council can consider sending them through the mayor to regional council.
I think probably just having it in the staff report is good enough. There's a fine line between pushing too much. I'm not quite sure where that line is, but if council wishes it to go to regional council, that's all right too. Whatever you guys want.
That's probably not tonight decision. Is that the decision for after we get the presentation and firm up our position?
Sure.
Other points we need to know for now or requests for a regional presentation?
So are we wanting this to go ahead of the presentation from regional council, or we want to hold off until we hear from the region?
I thought it was one to be held off.
But that makes
as long as that gives staff enough time to before the May regional. Yep. All good on this one? Perfect. That moves us on to other business. So Mayor's report on regional matters.
Just going through the December motions that were reported out. There's the GRT is looking to expand the rural transit and put a little bit some more time. So for Wellesley and North Dumfries, there'll be new transit routes, and there will be improved service for Woolwich and Wilmot with increased hours. I don't have all the hours in my mind right now. I don't know if staff know that, but I think it's Sunday and additional weeknight. Yeah. And also I can say that there was a presentation, the 4 townships in the region had a presentation today to Ministry of Transportation to talk about rural funding. Yeah, it was transportation on rural funding on funding for rural transit. And it went quite well. We were well received by all the ministries actually that we delegated to. They really appreciate when the townships all come together and report as one and show that we're working together. So they really do appreciate that. The other thing that I will mention is we're also trying to get the province to increase the funding for childcare. So there's still a wait list in the region with 14,000 children for affordable childcare. And I know that there's a childcare in Breslau who are trying to get it. It's called CWELC, and what is it? It's Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare Program, which subsidizes the childcare spaces. So they've been advocating really strongly to be included in that, and so that is in motion. We're trying to get more funding. I think that's it.
Any council reports or updates? I don't see any items posted information package or public notices. Citizens call for Blue Belt creation to protect regional groundwater. We received correspondence for information, which we can all see in the published agenda. And viewers online can read it there as well. And that almost brings us to the adjournment. I'm just wondering, there's lots of attention in the media about groundwater. Is there a chance sometime in February for council and the public to receive an update on where things are at from a Woolwich perspective?
I'm not sure if there's a separate Woolwich position right now. I don't know a whole lot more than what's been put out in the media. I don't know, David, if you want to add anything there.
I think at this point, it's probably best, to say that we'll do our best to draw out appropriate information from our ongoing meetings with the region and the other area municipalities on this topic, to hopefully at least explain things from a Woolwich perspective in terms of how we see the potential for impact. But at the same time, I think also it would be helpful, hopefully by either the first or the second meeting in February, we might have a better understanding, to be able to explain as well. For example, with, a lot of people think right now, based on what they've heard in the paper, that all development will ground to a halt. But as council is aware, development can proceed, and holding provisions can be used as a tool and have been used for years as a tool to allow growth and development approvals to proceed. So it may be beneficial to use that type of meeting to give some clarity on what people may be interpreting from the media, but what, the best information we have. By that time as well, I think, January the 28th, our understanding is the region itself will be looking at the short, medium, and long-term upgrades. And so there will probably be more information in February and greater clarity to be able to inform that type of meeting and presentation here.
Okay, that could be helpful, and there'll be a lot of community interest in that one as well. So that could be a placeholder in the agenda for February. Councillor Kiddo?
I'm wondering if what the communication channels are going to be from the 28th onward to the townships, especially because I imagine that information is going to regional council. Could it be forwarded to the individual municipalities as well? Because I think it would be valuable for entire councils to have that information.
Yeah, I can assure you that the region has committed to making sure that we have that information available to all of the area municipalities. So that I see that definitely happening. But to that end, just to make sure the public at home is aware of, in terms of, what's happening now, is that there is communication on a regular basis at various levels between the region and area municipalities, both at a CAO level, at a Director of Development Services level, at a Director of Infrastructure Services level, and also even with respect to communications, so that we're in the loop about messaging and what's happening there. So that is happening. I think the key thing, though, in getting prepared for either, the first or the second meeting in February will be hopefully that we'll be able to give some sense as well for an alignment between any of the upgrade works that are planned or happening and how that impacts timing with respect to capacity. I think that's one of the most critical factors in all of this, that I think this council, this staff, all of the area municipalities, the developers, and even the public need to understand, because a lot of emphasis has been placed on the development community, but we know in this day and age there's lots of people looking at accessory dwelling units, and converting their homes, and providing those opportunities. So it's not just big developers or small developers, it's also the public that want to know, will they be able to proceed with some of their plans? Some people, as you know, with accessory dwelling units, in this day and age, from an affordability standpoint, that's very important and very helpful. So any clarity that we can provide, obviously, would be, I'm sure, most welcome.
Thanks. I think there's a lot of people watching and listening to everyone on this. Okay, not seeing any other issues at the moment. We do need to have a motion to adjourn and meet again in closed session. So I'm looking for a motion that the council, Township Ballot, adjourns the regular meeting to meet again in special session on January 27th, to discuss the water and wastewater budget, and reconvenes in closed session tonight, immediately following this meeting. Councillor Cadeau, Councillor Grant, all in favor? That's passed. On behalf of council, I'd like to thank everyone who watched online or attended this evening's meeting, and enjoy the rest of the night. Thanks.